Welcome to Faith Talks Wood podcast. I'm Will from Flatwood Acres.
And I am Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.
And we're a podcast talks about everything from Jesus to joinery and a little bit of everything in between. So, Tom, have you ever had poison ivy before, or like poison oak, or
look, dude,
poison anything?
I am so allergic to poison oak and poison ivy, and I have been covered from head to toe with it multiple times in my life. The worst being about, I say it was probably 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago, something like that. My brother was in a motorcycle accident 25 years ago, and when he was 23. And so he wrecked, woke up looking at the bottom of his foot. So he broke his leg, his ankle, right above his ankle, like completely off. And they fused the bones back together. And so he doesn't get to walk like you and I do. He kind of, I shouldn't call it a peg leg, because he can slightly move his ankle, but he has to wear a brace on his ankle. And so he has mobility issues that you and I don't have. I was helping him out and be the good brother and do some work outside his house. And I was cleaning up his fence line, and I got into some poison ivy, and I immediately went and washed. I didn't realize that I had gotten into it at first, and then did and went and washed. But dude, I had apparently touched about every part of my body, from my face to my legs to my arms to you name it, everywhere in between. And
Yeah.
I was so miserable, dude. I was covered from head to toe. And after days of, doing the Epsom salt bath and doing all the poison ivy cream, I finally went to the doctor and had to get a
Steroid?
Like a steroid shot. And dude, it was one of the most miserable weeks of my life. And but yeah, I hate that stuff. If I get close to it, it's going to get me. So,
well, it's funny. I grew up never allergic to it, and the reason I knew I wasn't allergic to it is because I'd either be with friends and stuff, and they'd all get it, or a couple of them would get it, and I wouldn't. And then we had a work day at our church camp back when I was in high school. It's like 15 or so years ago, and we're cutting down these trees across the road by the creek, and so they're cutting them up, and there's a bunch of brush and stuff. And so we're up in these weeds, pulling the brush out and everything to go put in the fire. And every single person there got poison ivy like crazy. I was fine. Didn't get a single bit on me. And it's never bothered me since. I know I've been in it in the past. Never had a problem. Fast forward 10 or so years, your body changes. And the first time, it was when we were in Tennessee, I got something I got some on my arm. I don't know how I got it, where it came from, maybe one of the dogs or something. And that was pretty miserable. It wasn't too bad. And then over the last few years, I've gotten it, but I probably have the worst now. And it's, not as bad as it could be, but the ball of my ankle, the inside ball of my ankle, the whole thing is covered in probably a 4-inch just patch of poison ivy, poison something. I'm assuming I got it when we were outside picking berries over in the berry bush around that area, because it's in the exact shape around my ankle of my Crocs. Because I wear Crocs, and we call it 4-wheel drive when you put the backs on them, and it's right around. So I must have rubbed up against something when we were out picking berries or doing something, and so I've got poison ivy on my ankle. I'm getting towards the tail end of it. I've been putting calamine lotion on it every day and just drying it up and stuff. But Man, you ever get something like that? And like for me, I have to dress up for work. I wear nice slacks and nice shoes and, usually just like a golf polo kind of thing. And the socks, I hadn't wore socks all weekend because I'd just been, in Crocs, or at church, I'll wear my Hey Dudes and not wear socks with them, And so I put socks on to go to work. And by about lunchtime, it was itching.
Mm-hmm.
And you ever have an itch like that, poison ivy, that when you itch it, it feels good to itch it, but you shouldn't itch it?
Yes. Just makes it worse, but it's
man.
Oh man. I hate that stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know what it is. Poison ivy, poison oak, could be anything around here. It's hard to tell. Probably poison ivy, but so I got that on my ankle. But so it's been fun dealing with that and just been outside doing stuff. Happy to say we finally got the coop moved for the ducks. It is out in where it's going to be. It's got the foundation figured out with I put down a driveway cloth and then put gravel on top, and then the coop is sitting on those plastic like deck block things. And so it's sitting on that. I've got 6 of them, one at each corner and then 2 in the middle, just to kind of support the middle of it. And funny enough, I had said something on the podcast. I talked to some farmer friends at church, and I was like skeptical that my tractor could pick it up. Now I've got the same tractor. Well, it's a different brand, but the same power as yours, right? It's like a 26 horse or whatever. And I was skeptical. I was like, I don't think this thing could pick it up. And so finally, it was one of those weird things to where my wife and I, it was towards the end of the day. It was getting around dinner time, like 4:30 or so. And I look at my wife, and it started to cool off outside. And I said, let's go move the coop. And she said, let's do it. My wife she's a working bee. She's one of those, she can't sit still. She'll jump into anything. And so we went outside, and the kids played in their little kiddie pool. And I had to push the coop. The way it was sitting in the barn, I couldn't get to the side of it. So I had to push it with the forks to slide it sideways. And then I got the forks up underneath of it, and we made sure it was, it took a couple tries to get it centered because there's a porch off the front end of it and then the coop off, the rest. And so got it centered, and I revved up the RPMs to get the hydraulic pump moving in the tractor. And it was funny. My wife she gave me the thumbs up, like everything looks good. And if I pull up on that, the hydraulic, the loader, and if it didn't about throw that coop, like it picked it up like it wasn't even there. Now I had all my tires are filled in the tractor, and then I had the brush hog on the back, and I had the brush hog up high just to make sure it gave me some leverage. And yeah, not one problem at all. It picked that thing up, and I slowly, backed out and took it over to where it was going to go, and we positioned it, and my wife put the deck block things down, and we sat it down and had to do some leveling. And it's it's a fun little project. So now the ducks are where they're going to be. We've got the fence put up. Everything's good. My German Shepherd got shocked by 5,000 volts. She's an idiot for the second time. All to say, ducks are stupid. They're the dumbest. I think they're dumber than chickens. I swear to you. They're extremely skittish and scared of everything. And so they were in the coop, but kind of in the barn, and they would come out and now they've been out there since Saturday. Yeah, Saturday night. It was a Friday night, Saturday night. And they are just afraid to be outside, like the sky's falling or something. And then you try to, chickens will go back in the coop at night. Most chickens will, right? It gets dark out. They're chickens. They're scared. They go back in the coop. Ducks do not. So you have to go out there before dark to try to wrangle them into the coop. And if they're not near the coop, if not near like the run door, because it's a 25 by 25 fenced in area. Then you got to chase them around and you have to pick them up one by one and throw them in the coop. And yeah, they're stupid, but everything's set. They're good, and just waiting for them to start producing eggs. They'll probably start producing maybe September, October. And so we'll start getting some duck eggs. But yeah, that's been the venture. I've been talking about the stupid coop for the last year, and there's 6-8 months, and we finally got it put where it's going to go. And yeah, that project is done and marked off our project board. So
That's cool, man. I told you the first time you mentioned you didn't think your tractor would pick that up. I'm like, there is no way possible that it will not pick it up.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I could tell it was on the front, right? But I could also tell that the tractor had a lot more in it.
Yeah.
Like it was no problem at all.
It's amazing. I mean, how much they'll lift. So.
Yeah, mine is rated at the knuckle for 1,800, close to 1,800 pounds.
Yeah.
And so with forks on there, I mean, 1,000 pounds is nothing to lift.
Yeah.
So
I can't remember. And there's two different ratings. There's like one rating of what you can lift and have low to the ground, and another rating of what, and I can't remember exactly what mine would be similar to yours. But
yeah, it is, because I was looking at the Bobcat when I bought the LS, and the main reason I went with the LS is just because the dealership here is phenomenal.
Same reason I went with the Bobcat. You know,
right?
They're all really good tractors. I just wanted the closer local dealer, and they were super nice. And so it wasn't because I liked Bobcat better. In fact, I was planning on buying a Kubota. But
that would cost you twice as much.
It really wasn't. I did get a much better deal on the Bobcat, but it's just the people at our Bobcat dealer are so much more friendly than the people at our Kubota dealer and our John Deere dealer. It's like night and day difference. You walk into one of, like, literally to get somebody to help you when you go over to the Kubota dealer, it's like fighting tooth and nail. And the John Deere dealer, the guy was, well, first of all, they didn't have anything. But second, they were just kind of arrogant. I didn't.
Well, because they think the tractor brand sells itself.
Yeah, not for me.
People like you and you and me who are, we're going to pinch pennies and we're going to.
I want customer service. That's what I want.
Right.
Honestly, I would pay more. I would buy the most expensive one of the four if that was the best customer service dealer, because I care about after the sale, because once you buy that thing, you're going to need parts, service, something goes wrong, so but our Bobcat dealer is phenomenal here. You walk in there and like now they all know me by name, but before that, it's just like, how you doing today, sir? How can we help you? Yeah, absolutely. We can show you that. It just like they make you feel like they want to help you versus when I went to the John Deere day, the guy didn't even get out of his chair.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, well, that tells me where I'm not buying from.
Right.
So,
yeah. And the dealer network the dealership is an important thing. Now the dealer is not like super close to me. It's probably 40 minutes away. But there is no close dealer to me.
Yeah.
On any of them. So that just made sense for me. But yeah, I've been happy. I got to do the 50-hour service still. I'm at like 54 hours at this point. I got to buy the filters and do all this stuff. But yeah, so good old tractor life, getting to get out there and get the cobwebs off of it and use it. I used it more this past winter because we had so much snow, and so I haven't used it as much. And I've been busy with work and all that kind of stuff. But how about you? What you been working on?
I've been, when I had that bout with the heat last month, my garden I had weeded it right before, because I typically just go out there with a stirrup hoe. I can go through and 45 minutes and I can weed the whole entire garden. Just stay on top of it. Do it once a week, too easy. And well, then when I got sick, man, dude, it took off. And then we had rain and then it got hot and oh man. So I've been out there playing catch up on that. And that's literally, if you know how many hours I spent out there getting it back, so where I can manage it now. That had some sign installs and then hadn't had any real shop time this week, but I will. I got to go to Aspen Saturday and do an install at an art gallery and then another install at a jewelry store. And so you're a watch guy, and I can't even remember the name of this watch. So I'm going to do graphics in a jewelry store on a display. Guess how much the cost of the watch is?
In the display, I mean, I'd have to know the brand. It's probably 25 or
so
30,000.
$100,000 watch.
Yeah. What town is this in? Aspen?
It's in Aspen. It's like Aspen, the billionaires have pushed out the millionaires. Like you don't live in Aspen if you're just a millionaire anymore. You got to be somebody with 100 million or billions. Like, dude,
Wow.
it's so expensive up there. And I personally, it's a beautiful area, but I don't like going up there because all the people are rich and snooty. It's just a whole different vibe. Like it's not like where I live. Like where I live is beautiful, and the people are just good old working class, normal people. You know, friendly. Up there, man. Like it is a different world. It is so different, but it's kind of neat to go up there and see how the other half lives, because ain't how we live.
Huh. Is it a Rolex watch?
No, it's some other.
Cartier?
I'm gonna have to look at the display. I saw the graphics, and the graphics are the picture of the inside of the watch, all the
movement.
Yeah. And I can't remember the brand now. I'll get it for you and when I go up there. But I just couldn't believe it. They told me, I was like, why do they need this fancy display for a watch? He said, you know how much that watch costs? I was like, and they told me, I was like, oh man. Well, you make sure that thing's nowhere near me. I'm not responsible for knocking it over. I was like,
well, and that in the luxury billionaire game, $100,000 is nothing for a watch.
I know, but if I were
a
billionaire, I would not wear $100,000 watch. I'm sorry, but I could do more good with $100,000 than buy a watch. But
right now, if I had the money, my dream watch is only like a $5,000 watch, and that's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but if I were, CEO of my company and got a big, and we're 100% debt free and everything, I mean, I would consider it because I would wear it every single day. No, it would be my, that's my grail. It's a Omega Speedmaster that's my grail watch, and it's not in the watch world. It's not that expensive.
man.
Yeah,
not me. I bump into stuff. And like I would just be.
Oh yeah, I do too. My watches are beat, but I wear them. Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah,
I don't. Oh, not that kind of money.
I mean, I've seen some watches go for, some of them will go for 250, 300,000, 400, 500,000, depending on what the brand is. Yeah, it's insane. And a lot of it was inflated during the Rona period, because for whatever reason, all these multi-millionaire and billionaires had nothing better to do but to buy watches. So demand went up, and supply didn't go because they weren't making them as much. And so you have like a Rolex used to be like a Rolex Submariner, which is like your quintessential Rolex dive watch. Was really designed to be a dive watch to go 200-300 meters down, kind of thing. They used to be like $6,000-$7,000, and then COVID happened and all that, and if you could get one, they're 15 grand, right? And going upwards from that, and it's just insane. I used to follow some of the guys on YouTube that did watch stuff and like buying and selling watches, and it's insane. But yeah, to your point, I wouldn't pay that kind of money for a watch. I mean, that's insane to me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, fun stuff. Well, yeah, you have to send me a picture of what it is. I'm interested to see which watch it is. It's going to cost that much, but there's a lot of options out there.
Yeah. So, just so you know, like everything in my shop with everything in it doesn't cost $100 grand.
Right. Well, it's a thing too. You listen to Dave Ramsey, and he talks about ratios, right? He's pushing $1 billion net worth, right? And so for him, I remember hearing him a couple of years ago when the C8 Corvette came out. They were like, $110,000 to $140,000 Corvette, really, really nice. And he went out and bought one. But he said, I could light that amount of money on fire in my living room and I wouldn't notice it. He said it's about ratio. To me, it's a car. He said it's a car I wanted and I went and got it, right? And so, yeah, for me, I could like a dollar bill, I could burn and I would cry, but I wouldn't notice it.
Oh, man.
So,
anyway. All right. Well, let's get into the important stuff, man. What you got for us today?
Yeah. So I was listening to a podcast, and I'm not going to do it justice. And I highly recommend this podcast. If you guys are looking for other podcasts, always listen to ours, of course. But there's a podcast called Theology in the Raw. One of my favorite podcasts. The host is Preston Sprinkle, is his name. Funny last name, but he has guests on, and they talk about raw conversations on theology related things. And so he had Dr. Ed Uzinski on, which is a good friend of his. He's been on the podcast quite a bit over the years, but they talked about sports and like parenting and sports and what should it look like for us as Christian parents raising kids in sports, travel sports, that whole keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing and all this travel stuff. And it's a really, really, really good episode. And I highly recommend anybody listen to it. It just came out. And there's some truth to it. And I was a youth pastor for years. And of course I know people my age with kids and a little bit older than me with a little bit older kids. And there is an issue in our culture of parents making their kids play all these sports and, doing travel ball. I work with a lady who I helped her, ready for this? I helped her create a YouTube channel to put her daughter's softball videos on for a recruiter for a D1 school. And she's always, anytime she's off, it's because she's traveling wherever across tri-state area to play softball. And mind you, they're not believers, and so you can't hold anybody to the same standard. But I think it goes to show, and I know Christian parents that are they're that bad too, and it's just every single thing. And I work with a guy who they're Christians, but his wife is like, and he even says like she's overkill. Their kids play every sport year round. They're always in something. There's never a downtime. It's every weekend. They're dividing. They got two boys dividing, going each way, doing, somebody's got travel ball this direction an hour away. The other one's got travel ball in this direction an hour away. And they're just going. And he does, they do an okay job of making sure church is first and stuff, but they don't. I mean, they'll take a Sunday off and they'll go, they'll go do travel ball. And at what cost is it? I'm asking you parents, right, that have kids and that are doing these things. At what cost is it? Are kids really going to, make it big? Are they going to be the next Joe Montana or the next, whatever, Kenny Griffin Jr. or whatever? It shows my age. Are they really going to be that? Or is it more important to build them spiritually in their character? And if they want to play sports, I have nothing against sports. My kids will probably play some sports, but it's up front, and my wife and I are already on the same page. It will not take away from their time worshiping, and it will not be a ongoing, always doing something, involved in something. We have priorities, and sports isn't going to be the top priority in our family. But I know a family who they have three kids. Every one of them was all-state athlete. I'm talking best in the school, and they're all, the older two are like 2 years apart, and then the younger one's a lot younger, like 15 years from the middle child. So they had another one, and she is all-star, collegiate level, and all of them were like that. But they never missed church. They never missed youth group. They were always involved, and they always made sure that their kids were getting spiritually fed before they were investing in sports. And so it can be done, and can be done properly. But I really fear for the generation, for the family out there, that your priority is sports. And the guy I work with, his wife does it because she wants the boys to stay busy. If they get time on their hands, they'll get in trouble. Part of being a kid is figuring out your boundaries and getting in trouble. I'm not saying like go do drugs or rob a store, but like, it's part of being a kid is, having some time, going outside, getting in trouble for shooting the neighbor's cat with a BB gun. Don't do that, by the way. But, I really fear, and I was in youth ministry, and I remember several times I'd have kids that wouldn't be at youth group for a whole season because we had Sunday night youth group, and then my second church, we were Wednesday night, and I had kids that wouldn't be there during a specific season because their sport came first. And you could usually tell the difference in the kids. The kids where the parents were all about sports and about being involved in this and that, and not being spiritually fed. And you could tell they're not being spiritually fed at home. You could tell the difference in the kids, that they were not spiritually mature like some of the other ones were. And so, in thinking about this, 1 Timothy 4:7-8 have nothing to do with godly myths and old wives' tales. Rather, train yourselves to be godly. For physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come. If youth sports constantly interfere with church attendance, worship, youth group, opportunities for spiritual growth. Uh, what are we prioritizing, and what's important to us as parents, right? Are we prioritizing um, the training of an athlete over the training of a Christian, right? The training of bringing up your child in the ways of the Lord. Matthew 6:33, but seek first his kingdom and righteousness, and all these things will be given to you. We often see that we want to give to sports, and we want to, that's going to be the first thing, but seeking God's righteousness and keeping him first is going to be more value, and it's going to help grow our kids better. And so, it's just something to think about. Cultivate character over performance, right? 1 Samuel 16:7, but the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart, right? The important thing for us raising up our kids is that their heart is growing in the Lord. It doesn't matter what they do on the outside. And I want my kids to do things. And if one of my kids has a knack for a sport or anything, it could be band, right? Marching band or whatever. Whatever they do, I'm going to encourage them, and I'm going to help them grow in that. And I'm going to help cultivate that. But it's not going to come at the expense, and it shouldn't come at the expense of the spiritual journey, right? Proverbs 22:6, start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not run from it, right? Start them young. Instill in them spiritual growth and the importance of church community before the importance of sports. And sports, again, I'm going to reiterate that it's not a bad thing. I played basketball and volleyball. I love sports. I played ultimate frisbee for years. We need to make sure that that we're keeping the main thing. Colossians 3:23, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Why are we putting our kids in sports? Is it for some sort of approval or scholarship? Or is it because they genuinely love the sport and they want to glorify God through their abilities in the sport? And we need to help them discern the difference between that. That, it's okay to be a great athlete, and you can be a great athlete and a devout believer in God and have character. But we need to be careful that we're not putting, the athlete over the spiritual growth. And so, and there's so much you could talk about in this. And Tom, I know that you coached soccer for many years, and it was, I think it was a Christian league, or at least a bunch of homeschoolers or whatnot. How have you seen this done right, and have you seen it done wrong as far as making sure you keep the main thing and not putting athletics above spiritual growth?
Yeah. So I have done it the wrong way, and I have done it the right way. So I'm a really good example. I think, first of all, us parents, a lot of parents try to live out their dreams through their children. And because they like a sport or they like athletics, they try to push their kids into athletics. And I love athletics. I think sports are fantastic for children. They teach them to be teammates. They teach them to be unselfish, to share the ball, to work well with others, to win, to lose. There's so many great lessons that come from sports. But are we putting sports ahead of Christ? And that is the one thing. So my daughter played travel soccer, and she could have played in college at a not a D1 college, at a smaller private college had we stayed in North Carolina, because the coach knew her and wanted her on the team. However, that she would have gotten a small partial scholarship to go and play at that school. And so I first want to talk about putting Christ first. And the bad thing about travel sports, travel soccer, travel baseball, all of them, basketball, either play games on the weekend, on Sunday, or tournaments on Sunday. With travel soccer, the vast majority of our games were actually on Sunday. We did have some Saturday, and then we would go to tournaments that'd be all weekend long. And so when my daughter first started playing travel, she was 8 years old. We were not going to church at that time. And so she loved it. All she wanted to do was play soccer. She just loved playing. She didn't want to grow up to be a professional soccer player. She just loved playing soccer. And we thought it was good for her to be in a sport, to be in a team. And so we spent the money and put her on it, and she loved it. She made some good friends on that. Well, later on, I ended up, the Lord drawing me back in, and then I started taking my daughter to church, and then it became a weekly thing. And if we were playing games locally, we would go to church in the morning, and then we were on the soccer field in the afternoon. But if it was an out-of-town game, there were times we skipped church to travel to that outer town. And so looking back on it, I look at what's the example that I was setting for my daughter at that time. I was basically telling her that, okay, soccer is more important than going to church. So if we've got a game, that's going to be the priority. And if we don't have a game, then we're going to go to church. So that's the lesson that I taught my daughter at that age. I'm not proud of it. And if you're doing the same thing, that is the lesson you're teaching your child, that, okay, if we don't have a sport activity, then we're going to go to church because church is important to us. But it's only important to us if we don't have a soccer game. In our case, or it might be baseball or basketball. And so I challenge you on that. That is a tough decision when you're child, or at least you think it's a tough decision. It really should not be. And looking back on it, I wish that we would have not done the travel soccer when she was that age. And I'm going to tell you multiple reasons why. One, unless your kid is the next Lionel Messi and going to be the greatest soccer player in the world, make it to the pros, or the next Michael Jordan, or we can go on down the list, Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. Let me tell you the mathematical statistics. 0.02 to 0.03% of high school athletes will become a professional athlete. 2% of D1, not all college, 2% of Division I athletes will actually make it into the pros. So 98% of athletes that go and play Division I sports will not go play in the pros. So that's not going to be their profession. And I certainly don't want to discourage anybody from if they think their child is the next Michael Jordan. But since I'm a big Michael Jordan fan, I want to tell you about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, the undisputed greatest basketball player of all time. I don't care. The statistics prove it. He's the best one that's ever played. He did not play basketball in high school until his senior year in high school. He was a baseball player. He wanted to go play pro baseball, but he also played basketball on the side. In his senior year, his high school coach got him to come out and play. He got seen by Dean Smith, went to UNC. We know what happened there. And then, of course, we know what happened in the pros. So if your kid has all this amazing natural talent, they can't, and that is God's plan for their life, guess what? They can become a professional athlete without having to skip church on Sunday. They don't have to play AAU basketball or travel soccer or whatever the fancy league is for that particular sport. If that is God's plan for them, they can and will become a pro athlete without having to skip church on Sunday. Now, with that being said, for all those of you that are thinking, oh, I'm going to get my kid has a chance to get a scholarship. So the statistics on the only sport, and this is that really gives out a lot of scholarships in college, is football that are worth talking about. Now, and when I'm talking about high percentages, across the board at all colleges, because football and then second would be basketball that actually generate money for the colleges. In soccer, which my daughter was in, particularly females, the only ones getting scholarships worth talking about are Division I and about 10 schools across the nation. Most of them are not getting scholarships that are going to cover their entire tuition, college expenses, and all. And when you look at the math of what you pay, because it's not cheap to put your kid in a travel soccer team or a travel basketball, softball, whatever the sport is. You got the league dues, your team dues, your uniforms, and then when you travel, you've got the gas, the eating out, the staying in hotels. If you add that up over the course of your child's life, you're going to more than pay for their college. If we had saved all that money over the year, put it in a bank account, let it get some interest, my daughter would have just had the cash sitting there. So there's your scholarship. You're giving it away. We gave it away. Now, my daughter enjoyed it, and she loved soccer, and she made some good friends and got the physical fitness. Well, I'll tell you this about friends and about sportsmanship and learning true lessons. So my daughter also played on the homeschool Christian soccer team. To this day, the first year, the coach had been there for 8 years. His daughter was graduating. She was a senior that year. And I was the dad that just kind of took the daughter to practice and hung out around the field. I would fetch balls and, assist, be the present dad. And at the end of that season, everybody said, well, he's retiring. His daughter's graduating. Who's going to coach next year? Everybody turned and said, Tom's going to coach. And I'm like, I am? I don't know anything about coaching. But ended up going to U.S. Soccer Federation, getting I got all the licenses up all the way to coach high school. And then I coached for 8 years and absolutely loved it. And the difference between that travel team that was crazy competitive and cost a bloody fortune was two things. One, the parents, and two, the kids. So on the sidelines of the travel soccer team, I have watched a dad get kicked off the field because he was yelling and cussing at the refs and everything else you can imagine. Just the most unsportsmanlike stuff from parents. Well, those type parents also raise a bunch of bratty, whiny, unsportsmanlike kids. And then I have seen my daughter be on a team where the parents all have the same values and are raising up godly young women. In this case, I'm coaching a girls' team. and the boys' team were the same. And you could just see the difference on the sidelines, and you could pick these girls out of a crowd. They were polite. They worked harder than the kids that did on the travel team, because they weren't just being bought for. They were there because they wanted to be there. And then on top of that, they were there for the right reasons. So the way I began every single season that I coached is I would start the team meeting off and had the parents there. We would have a meet and greet, and I would ask every kid in the room what they wanted to do when they grew up. And I never once had a player that said, I want to be a professional soccer player and I want to play on the U.S. women's national team. Never once. Now, if you went to the travel league, you would probably experience one or two girls that might say that, but the vast majority of them are going to be just like my daughter. I want to be a school teacher. I want to be a physical therapist. I want to be this or that, accountant, whatever. And so I began it by asking us, so since none of us want to be professional soccer players, what is our purpose of being here? And it's like, one thing that we could take away from this is we could make some friends that we could have for a lifetime. So building friendship, but, and learning how to work as a team and all the other things that come along with playing sports. I was like, but we are here when we get on that field to represent Jesus Christ. We're here, and parents, you are here to do the same thing. When we go and travel, and just because we were a Christian team and played in a Christian team, a league, there were times where we went, and there were some people that weren't acting so Christian-like. But everywhere we went, the people would say, man, your team is just so well-mannered, so well-behaved, so sportsmanlike. Your parents and I told the parents, it's like, we're going to be the example everywhere we go. And my dream is that you're going to walk out of this team closer to Christ, and you're going to walk out with a friend that you're going to stay friends with for life. And my daughter, still to this day, we've lived in Colorado now for 4 years. One of the friends that she has on that from her homeschool team, they literally will what do you call the thing? FaceTime each other on the phone and watch a movie together and talk, and they still communicate on a regular basis. They still send each other birthday cards and call and everything. And so there's just so much more that comes out of sports than becoming a professional athlete. And when you look at the odds, and you might be listening to this and you've got the next Michael Jordan as your child. And I certainly don't want to tell you to deny that. But I'm telling you, God, if he wants your child to be the next Michael Jordan or the next Tim Tebow, he could put him in the pro sports without having him play in league on Sunday. And I think we as parents are, when we say, hey, God is number one in our lives, and we're going to show that by on Sunday. We're going to be in church and worship as a family, and it just sets an example. And you read this passage here. I'd like to read just a hair bit more on down because there's one verse here that I used to share with my team, and if you read through 8, and if you go on to 9, it says, this is a trustworthy saying, and that this is following up the physical training is good, but training for godliness is much better. So it goes on to say, this is a trustworthy saying, and everyone should accept it. This is why we work hard and continue to struggle, for our hope is in the living God, who is the Savior of all people, and particularly of all believers. Teach these things and insist that everyone learn them. Now, here's the important part. For youth, don't let anyone think less of you because you are young. In the ESV, it says, let no one despise you for your youth, but set the believers an example in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. So if we raise our children up in the Word, showing them what is the most important, it doesn't matter if they're 10 years old, 15, 18, 20, they can then go out and be the example, and they can be the example to adults. And so I just challenge you on this. I like I said, I had those years where sports were the priority, and then it shifted. And praise God, one of the best things that happened to us from this standpoint was COVID. Because when COVID came around, they kept playing travel soccer, but they told them they had to wear masks. And I told my daughter, I said, "Are you really going to run up and down a soccer field wearing a mask?" I said, "How are you going to breathe?" And she said, "I ain't doing that." And so we took her off the travel soccer team, and she played the remainder of her years on the homeschool team, and didn't miss it one bit because all her friends came from that homeschool team. And of course, we were able to make church a priority all the time then. So it is a tough thing, and because we love our children, and we want to give them everything, and we want to let them experience the things and that they want to do, and we don't want to take something that brings joy away. But there is something about saying, "Hey, this is our priority, and our priority is God. We're going to go there and worship Him on Sunday, and then we're going to go play soccer or baseball or whatever the other sport is the other days of the week, and we're going to give it our all, and we're going to be the example on the team and how hard we work and practice and how we treat our teammates and everything else." But I just ask you to sit and pray about it and really think about what the priority is. And then, what's the end goal? The end goal is to raise a godly young man or young woman. It's not to raise an NFL athlete. God can put them in that position without skipping church on Sunday. So,
yeah. And the podcast I listened to, one of the things that I found interesting is he said, the guy that was the guest on the podcast, Ed Uzinski, he leads some sort of like, kind of like, what's that, Athletes for Christ kind of thing, on college campuses.
Fellowship
and he
of
said
Christian
that,
Athletes.
yeah, something like that. And he said that 99, or put it this way, only 0.5% of athletes actually have that drive where they want to win, where they're the ones getting up at 4:00 in the morning, going to work out. They're the ones that are driving for it. They're the ones that are, every time they mess up, he said 99.5%, they just want to be there to play the sport. They love the sport. But there's only 0.5 that are the ones that, end up becoming the Michael Jordans or end up becoming or whatever. And so most of our kids just want to go to play sports with their friends. They just want to, they enjoy the sport. They just want to go play it. And this is funny. One of the things, and Tom, you may not know this about me, I am the least competitive person you'll ever meet. I guarantee it. Whether it's playing a board game, whether it's, now I like to have fun, but like if we're playing sports, I'm not competitive. There's not 1 ounce in me. The only time I get competitive is if there's a bully. So I played basketball, right? If there's a bully on the court on the opposite team and he's just, showing off and showboating and ball hog, I will make it my mission to shut him down. That's the only time I get competitive. I don't get competitive. Like if we lose, I don't get mad. If we win, I don't gloat. I never have. And that's been one of the things, probably why I wasn't like a all-star athlete, is because I really enjoyed being out there. And I was athletic. I mean, I was, if not the fastest, one of the fastest runners in my high school. Nobody could beat me in a foot race. And so that when it came to playing sports, breakaway and basketball, I ran track, but I was never competitive. And so if I lost, you would never see Will over punching a wall or getting mad. It was like, okay, and we lost, right? And so I have a perspective where my wife is different. My wife is competitive, right? She wants to win. She wants to. So my friends growing up, if we play games, board games, or even like growing up, middle school playing Madden on the Xbox, and if my buddy's crushing me, and he's like, "Oh, I'm crushing you," like I don't feed that. And if I'm crushing him, I never was like, "Oh, you dummy, I got you." Like I never. And so my wife hates it too because like we'll be doing something and I won't be competitive enough to make a thing out of it. I don't know. It's just a weird thing about me. But yeah, so all this to say, there are valuable life lessons from playing sports. There are things that can be beneficial. As you know, you were coaching soccer. I've coached basketball, ref basketball, played basketball. I played volleyball. Um, I live in the most competitive men's volleyball, high school volleyball in the country. Somebody from my district wins Pennsylvania State Volleyball Championship every year, one of the schools in my area. And we have one kid that's on the Olympic, going to go to the Olympics from my high school. So, high school men's volleyball, and I grew up playing it at third grade. They're teaching us how to set and how to bump and spike, right? And so, I've been at the top. We went, in my senior year in high school, we come second in state. And the only reason we lost is because we went in with a big head. We had beat this team early in the season, absolutely crushed them, all the sets, no questions asked. And they had a bone to pick with us. And we went in thinking, oh, we remember this team. They couldn't even return a serve, and they just demolished us, right? And so I've played the competitive sports, but one of the things as I am becoming, I'm a father. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, is trying to make sure we keep the main things. And it's interesting too, and you probably get this, Tom, and all of you guys listening, it's almost like this lens that I look through, right? And I'm holding up a Bible here. This lens that I look through makes me seem weird because I'm aware and conscious of things that my parents were never, right? That the things that I am thinking about and my wife and I are thinking about and the way that we're trying to do things are things that our parents never batted an eye at. And it's nothing against them. But when I talk to people at work, I work in a secular place, right? And I tell people like, yeah, my kids will play sports, but they will not miss church. And the coach will know that before the season starts. Like that will be, and if he's going to make a deal about it, then, my kid doesn't have to play for you if you're going to, you know what I mean? And so, and people look at me like, are you crazy? Yeah, I'm crazy. I'm crazy that my kids know the Lord. I'm crazy that they understand priorities, that they are, because my whole thing is I want to sever what I've brought, my baggage. I want that to stop with me, right? And I want my kids to not have to deal with what I dealt with. And my upbringing is drugs and alcohol and all kinds of stuff like that I grew around. And so there's a whole side of me that wants to cut that off. I want my family tree to change, and that's what I'm focusing on. That's what my wife and I are focusing on. And so I just felt, it's funny, you guys listening, you guys made it this long. We're an hour in already. Tom and I, it's later in the week. We had some stuff. We had a guest plan. It didn't work out, and I've been busy with work, and I was listening to this podcast, and I texted Tom, and I says, controversial topic, kids in sports. And I knew that you had coached, and I'm like, I think Tom, he's passionate about this as well. And here's the reality, guys. Sports, it's not a bad thing. Your kid becoming an athlete is not a bad thing, but we need to be careful. We need to balance. We need to balance the priorities and make sure that first and foremost, their spiritual growth comes above their athletic growth. So,
amen.
Yeah. So, I haven't done any woodworking, but if you were on Instagram, I just posted a little bit ago, I have a laser engraving project. I'm not going to be able to start it out tonight. I need to do it tomorrow night because it needs to be done by Saturday. That's a pretty cool thing. So we have a family from my church. I go to a small church, if everybody's there on a Sunday, it's maybe 150. And there's a family from our church, husband and wife. They're in their late 70s, early 80s. I'm not exactly sure how old they are. He led worship at the church for like 40 years. Just great. Like the people you think about, like, I want to be like that when I'm older. It's this couple. They've sold their home here with their land that they built the house with their own hands, raised their kids here, and they're moving to Kentucky where their daughter is at to be close to them because they're getting up there in age. They can't take care of the property anymore. They don't have all their kids live across the country. And so they're moving down to Kentucky. And it's kind of a sad thing for us at the church. They are beloved. We love them. And so it was brought to my attention. We used to, about 15 years ago, they took out all of the church pews and then did new carpet and put chairs in, right? Like the stackable chairs that most modern churches have nowadays. And there's still a bunch of those pews sitting around. Just, there's a couple at the church, and then some families took them home, put them on the front porch or like whatever, family room. And so we're taking one of these huge pews, cut it down, and we're going to make it into a bench for them to take with them to Kentucky. And I'm laser engraving on the back of the seat. My pastor's the one that's kind of doing it. He took it all apart and brought me just the back. I'm laser engraving a thing with music notes and a lamb and a Bible verse. It's going to be this big laser engraving on the back of this bench. And so I got that all mocked up and ready to basically, make sure all my lines are right and run the engraving. But it's going to be a couple hour engraving because it's pretty big. But I got all that set up. So I will be making some saw smoke or some wood smoke in the shop. So yeah, it kind of felt good to be out there. I was messing around with the laser. I did a test engrave on a small piece of wood just to kind of make sure it's going to look the way it should. And so yeah, I will be doing some stuff tomorrow night. It's going to be good. But side note, speaking of like working, so the company I work for, we are big in the community. Always opportunities to volunteer, and we can volunteer within reason as much as we want with the organizations that my company partners with. And I haven't done any of that since I've been there. I'm too busy. And then, yeah, anyways. So an opportunity came up for Habitat for Humanity. They're building a house. And so email came up. We have a girl that's over all of our volunteering and public relations. And I jumped on it. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this. So tomorrow going to work half day, and then the second half of the day I'm going to be going. Not really sure what the project's going to be yet. They're building a house, not sure what stage it's going to be at, but I'm going to go and help. Whether that's running electrical, putting a wall up, painting, drywall, whatever it's going to be, I'm going to go help with that. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. It's going to be kind of cool to get out in the community and help. And I've never done anything like that. Well, I take it back. I have done something like this before. When I was in high school, Hurricane Katrina happened. Everybody remembers Katrina, right? The year Katrina happened, so that happened it was like springtime. That fall, my youth group went to a missions convention in Indianapolis. And at that missions convention, there was I don't remember what the company was, what the organization was, but they were building houses for New Orleans. And they had, basically they were building kits to where you'd build all the framing, it'd load on a truck and it'd go down, and then they'd assemble it on site in New Orleans. And so we got to build several walls for a house to go down there. The crazy thing about that is we did that. It was like October of that year. It was like 2006 or whenever that was, 2005, whenever Katrina happened. I don't remember. We did that fall, and then that next spring break, my youth group did a mission trip to New Orleans. And wouldn't you know it, if we got to put one of our walls up.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of a cool thing. But so yeah, I'm looking forward to that tomorrow. It's going to be a long day. It's going to be hot. I'm going to be outside, whatever, there's not going to be air conditioning or anything. So, yeah, anywho, anything else going on in your world, Tom?
I've just been playing catch up on sign work and on the farm. I haven't been in the shop, but I am getting ready to start building a bunch of pull-out drawers to go in our cabinets. And so just got to go get the plywood, and I've already got everything, all the measurements and everything, my cut list.
So is this like the drawers for your silverware kind of stuff? Just your normal drawers?
No, not normal drawers. Pull-outs inside the cabinets.
Okay. Yeah. We had that in our last house.
So that way you can pull the mixer out, that type thing, versus having to reach back in a shelf.
Now, what kind of slides are you going to use for those?
I wish I could afford blooms, but I'll be honest, I'm going to probably just use regular old ball bearing slides.
Just ball bearing side slides, yeah.
Yeah, so just because I'm doing so many, and to spend the money on all the bloom undermounts, which are so nice, it would just cost a fortune, man. And I got to write a big fat check in 2 weeks to Colorado Mesa University for my daughter's PT school, so I'm on a budget, man.
Yeah. Hey, 2 weeks from today.
I say 2 weeks. It's about a month before I got to write that check, but it's getting close.
In 2 weeks, I write a big fat check for tuition for private school for my son. So I probably not as much as your college, but
I was going to say it's nowhere near what physical therapy school is, but my daughter has worked hard and earned it, and I had an agreement that if she did well in high school, got into college, did well in college, got into PT school, that I would pay for it, and she has done that. So, in 3 years, I'll be able to exhale.
Be able to exhale, and she'll be probably making more money than you ever thought you'd make.
That's what I'm hoping. And then when Daddy's got back pain, she'll be able to, help me out. So, yeah,
like it. Awesome. Very good, man. Well, I gotta get up early for work tomorrow. It seems like it's never ending.
Yeah, it never is.
So, yeah. Until next week, I'm Will from Flatwood Acres.
And I am Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.